Well, in an effort to help South Africans better prepare for extreme weather conditions, the Government Communication Information System, or GCIS, has partnered with the South African Weather Service to host an important roundtable discussion, and the focus will be on the Early Warnings for All initiative, which aims to provide citizens with timely alerts about adverse weather patterns. Now, this collaboration seeks to enhance public awareness and readiness in the face of unpredictable weather events. For more on this, let's now welcome Professor Tafadzwa Mabhaudhi, Professor of Climate Change, Food Systems and Health at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. Professor, great having you with us this afternoon. Welcome. So this is a great collaboration between these two entities, especially at the back of what we've recently seen in the country with inclement weather patterns.
Good afternoon. I totally agree. I think this is a very welcome and overdue collaboration, really, between government entities. South Africans have been complaining for the longest time. Every time when there's a disaster, the issue is always, why were we not prepared? Why did the warnings fail? And we've been talking about the initiative called the Early Warnings for All, which is led by the United Nations, which has been around since 2022. And my only call is I wish the two parties would also invite a broader movement of South Africans to this round table.
Absolutely, Professor, because how important is this type of communication, simplification also of that information for the public, increasing awareness about the need to heed such warnings? We've just recently come to realize that some of these severe weather reports are not easily understood, hence sometimes not heeded.
Definitely. We've not fully implemented what is called the Common Alerting Protocol, or CAP. And what it emphasizes really is broader dissemination through wider media, SMS, local radio stations, community-based early warning, converting early warnings into local languages and simple language so that people understand what is the risk, what is the lead time that they have before the risk occurs, who is exposed, and what sort of actions do they need to take. And we saw this failing when we had the snow issue on the N3 this year, and people were stranded, people passed away because of that, because of failure. The warning had been issued, but not everyone had received it, and not everyone understood what it meant and the risks involved and the sort of actions that were needed. So this is welcome, as I said, and we just need to involve more partners, more stakeholders, because the communication itself requires a wider group of stakeholders.
And Professor, I mean, how does South Africa actually fare in comparison to other countries? I don't even think I've heard that much communication around the issues of evacuation procedures as well as plans pertaining to, in the likely event of any of such inclement weather events.
So South Africa fares well on paper. Those plans do exist. The challenge is really the dissemination. South Africa is a state-of-the-art early warning system managed by the South African Weather Service. They are able to monitor and predict a lot of inclement weather, which they often do. But then the communication is where it fails. It does not often reach the people in the affected area. It does not reach them in time. They do not know what they need to do. As you mentioned, these evacuation plans are not standard in terms of people knowing them. Disaster management officials working in local government and municipal officials in the local government who are actually interfacing with communities often do not know these protocols. So there's that disconnection between national and the local sphere.
Absolutely. A very important point that you raised there, Professor, that I also wanted to tug into the disaster management teams that are often caught offside because of the lack of warning even for them. But Prof, looking ahead now, let's talk about the benefits of these initiatives, which could be very beneficial. As we know, climate change is now something that we are witnessing, living with. I mean, we had a destructive tornado storm just yesterday, and there was that unprecedented snowstorm along the N3, as you earlier mentioned. So the need to educate our citizens about these changes is ever more vital.
Yes, the need for awareness, climate awareness and climate literacy. So we talk of awareness. Awareness is knowing. Literacy is being able to actually translate the information, the numbers. What do they mean for me where I'm located? And again, my call is to involve a wider sector of our community. It's good that the South African Weather Services and the GCIS have taken this initiative, but they also need to involve local municipalities, cooperative governance, which is where disaster management is located, the National Disaster Management Center, the provincial and district municipalities, where you've got the provincial disaster management centers, which is usually where things start failing as you cascade downwards. Our local disaster management officials in the wards, the communities that people live in, civil society partners who are usually the first line of responding to these issues. So it is good to have a roundtable discussion, but it is more important to make sure that who is sitting around that table are all the relevant stakeholders and all the relevant actors who would be involved in communicating the message, building the awareness, and building the effective response capabilities. Because when people get the message, they need to know how to act, how to respond, how much time they have before the disaster occurs.
Mm-hmm. And looking at this roundtable discussion then, Professor, how would you then envision it being effected?
So my vision would be, as I mentioned, for wider participation to involve all South Africans from all walks of life, because climate change and these disasters have been affecting everyone. No one has been spared. So different organizations, different sectors. It shouldn't be just about people involved in weather, in disaster management. It should also be people in health, because they also need to respond. It should also be people in agriculture, people in the water sector, and for us to convene a broader discussion, because what we need are integrated disaster management and response strategies that are multidisciplinary, that say when there is a disaster, this is how government comes together, a whole of government approach. And that is what is usually lacking, because only one sector responds, whereas the problem or the impact is multi-sectoral. So hopefully we can start having these conversations, have all the people at the table, come up with a framework to say, as South Africans, this is how we want to manage disasters going forward. This is how we implement the early warning for all initiative in South Africa. And we need to build it from the bottom up, from the communities. It has to be community-based, building up into a national system and not the other way around.
Thank you.